Most women lie awake at night, wondering what's really happening in his mind during those intimate moments. You're there with him, physically close, but there's this gap, this space between what he says and what you sense he's actually feeling. You wonder if you're truly connecting or just going through motions. You question whether he's present with you or lost in his own world. And here's what nobody talks about. This curiosity isn't insecurity, it's intelligent. It's your intuition telling you there's more happening beneath the surface than either of you have words for. You're not imagining things. There is a deeper experience unfolding in him, and understanding it changes everything about how you connect. Most women never get access to this knowledge because men themselves don't have language for what they experience. But you're about to discover what's really happening in his inner world during your most vulnerable moments together. Here's what culture has told you. Men's intimate experience is simple, straightforward, purely physical. You've heard that men are visual creatures who don't attach emotion to physical closeness the way women do. You've been taught that for him, it's about release and sensation, while for you, it's about connection and meaning. But what if everything you've been told is incomplete? What if men experience profound emotional complexity during intimacy? They just experience it differently than you do, and they definitely don't talk about it. I'm about to walk you through 5 distinct emotional layers men move through during intimate moments. These aren't theories or generalizations. These are the unspoken experiences men carry but rarely articulate, even to themselves. Understanding these layers gives you access to a kind of connection most couples never find. This matters right now because you're seeking something deeper than what you currently have. Maybe you've been with your partner for years, and lately it feels like you're roommates who occasionally have sex. Maybe you're in a new relationship and you sense potential for profound connection but don't know how to access it. Maybe you feel him pulling away emotionally even when you're physically close, and you can't figure out why. The bridge to the intimacy you actually want isn't better technique or different positions. It's understanding what's happening in his emotional world so you can meet him there. When you understand his inner experience, everything shifts. You stop second guessing yourself. You stop performing and start connecting. You become magnetic in ways that have nothing to do with your body and everything to do with your presence. This knowledge transforms not just your intimate life, but your entire relationship. Here's what most women don't realize. While you're lying there analyzing your body, worrying about sounds you're making, wondering if you're doing everything right, he's experiencing intense performance pressure that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with his deepest fears about himself. Men carry silent anxiety during intimacy that would shock you if you could hear his internal dialogue. He's terrified of not being enough, not hard enough, not lasting long enough, not satisfying you enough. He's wondering if you're actually enjoying this or just being polite. He's trying to read every sound, every movement, every breath to gauge whether he's succeeding or failing. And here's the painful part. He can't talk about this fear because admitting it feels like confirming it. So he builds walls. He becomes quiet or overly focused on technique. He might seem emotionally distant when actually he's drowning in anxiety about being adequate for you. What looks like detachment is often protection. What feels like him not caring is usually him caring so much that the pressure paralyzes his ability to be present. This performance anxiety creates a vicious cycle. The more anxious he feels, the more he disconnects from emotion and focuses on mechanics. The more he focuses on mechanics, the less present he becomes. The less present he becomes, the more you sense something's off, which increases his anxiety. Neither of you understands what's happening, so the distance grows. During intimacy, men experience a hunger for acceptance so profound it's almost spiritual. He's not just hoping you enjoy the physical experience, he's desperately needing you to accept all of him in his most vulnerable state. His body exactly as it is, his performance exactly as it unfolds, his emotional state exactly as he brings it. This isn't about ego or validation in the superficial sense, it's about being seen completely and not rejected. Think about it. Intimacy is the only arena where men are expected to be vulnerable, emotional, and receptive. Everywhere else in life, he's supposed to be strong, controlled, competent. But in intimate moments, he's exposed. His body responds in ways he can't fully control. His emotions surface whether he wants them to or not. He needs things from you: acceptance, reassurance, connection, which goes against everything he's been taught about masculine self sufficiency. When you offer genuine acceptance in these moments, something happens in him that he can't get anywhere else. He feels permission to be fully human instead of constantly performing strength. But here's what trips up most women: he can sense whether your acceptance is genuine or performative. If you're accepting him because you think you should or because you're trying to manage his emotions, he feels it. What he's actually hungry for is your authentic appreciation of him exactly as he is in this moment: imperfect, vulnerable, human. Men are terrified of emotional exposure during intimacy, and this fear drives behaviors that confuse women constantly. When he's physically intimate with you, his emotional defenses are down in ways they never are otherwise. He feels things intensely. He needs things desperately. He experiences vulnerability that makes him feel uncomfortably out of control, and he has no cultural training for how to handle this. From boyhood, men learn to suppress emotion, maintain control, never appear needy. Then intimacy demands the opposite: emotional openness, surrender of control, acknowledgement of need. The dissonance is overwhelming. So watch what happens after profound, intimate connection. He might get quiet and withdrawn. He might crack jokes or immediately shift conversation to something mundane. He might fall asleep quickly or suddenly need to check his phone. Women interpret these behaviors as him not caring, being emotionally unavailable, or using them, but usually these are protection mechanisms. He just experienced emotional exposure that scared him, and he's trying to rebuild his defenses before the vulnerability destroys him. The silence isn't absence of feeling, it's too much feeling without tools to process it. The humor isn't dismissiveness, it's desperate need to release tension he doesn't know how to hold. Understanding this changes how you respond to his post-intimacy behavior, which changes everything about whether he can eventually learn to stay present with the emotion instead of running from it. Here's what will surprise you most. Men don't experience intimacy as purely physical release. They experience it as rare opportunity for emotional connection they literally cannot access any other way. In his daily life, your partner moves through the world with emotional armor. He can't be vulnerable at work. He can't be emotionally open with male friends without risking judgment. He can't express need or fear or uncertainty without seeming weak. He carries everything alone, constantly performing competence and strength. Then, intimacy happens and something shifts. Physical closeness opens emotional channels that stay locked everywhere else. In these moments, he can feel without apologizing for feeling. He can need without shame about needing. He can be uncertain, imperfect, human. This is why sex matters so much to men in relationships, not because they're shallow or only care about physical pleasure, but because it's the only context where emotional connection feels safe. When women say, "he only wants sex," what's often actually true is sex is the only way he knows how to access the emotional intimacy he desperately craves. The physical act becomes the doorway to emotional experience he can't reach any other way. Understanding this completely reframes what's happening when he initiates intimacy. He's not just wanting your body, he's seeking the emotional connection that physical closeness makes possible for him. There are moments during intimacy when men experience something beyond normal consciousness, a fusion experience where boundaries dissolve and he feels completely merged with you. Time stops. His usual identity structures fall away. The constant mental chatter goes silent. He's not thinking about work or responsibilities or anything except this moment, this connection, this feeling of complete union with another human being. These fusion experiences are profoundly healing for men. They're moments of ego death where all the pressure of being a man in the world just disappears. He's not performing masculinity or maintaining strength or solving problems. He's simply being completely present, totally connected. What creates these experiences? It's not technique or novelty or physical intensity. It's your genuine presence meeting his genuine presence. It's safety that allows his defenses to completely drop. It's acceptance so complete that he can surrender the constant vigilance he maintains everywhere else. When you bring authentic desire, full presence, and unconditional acceptance to intimacy, you create space for him to experience consciousness altering connection. And these moments change him. They don't just feel good in the moment, they alter his entire relationship to vulnerability, emotion, and connection. They show him what's possible when he risks being fully seen. Men feel profound gratitude toward partners who create safe, intimate space, but this gratitude is so deep they often can't articulate it. He doesn't have words for what it means to be accepted completely in his vulnerability. He can't explain the relief of being with someone who doesn't judge his body, criticize his performance, or make his emotional needs feel like burdens, so the gratitude goes unspoken. But it's there, shaping how he sees you, how he treats you, how committed he feels to the relationship. This is why women sometimes feel confused about their partner's feelings. He might not say, "Thank you for accepting me," or "I'm grateful for how safe you make me feel," but watch his actions. Notice how he shows up for you in other areas of life. Pay attention to his loyalty, his protectiveness, his desire to make you happy. Often, these are expressions of the gratitude he can't verbalize about what you give him in intimate moments. The challenge is that women want verbal affirmation. You want him to say how he feels, and his silence can feel like absence of appreciation. But for many men, the depth of gratitude they feel about intimate acceptance is precisely what makes it impossible to speak about. It's too important, too vulnerable, too central to their well-being to risk putting into words that might diminish it. When you genuinely desire your partner, something happens in him that validates his worth at the deepest possible level. This isn't about ego or vanity, it's about his core identity as a man. Being authentically wanted by you confirms that he's capable, worthy, desirable, that his masculinity is real and valuable. Men are exquisitely attuned to whether you truly want them or are just accommodating them. They can feel the difference between genuine desire and dutiful participation. When you want him, not because you should, not because it's been a while, not because you're trying to keep him happy, but because you genuinely desire connection with him, it transforms his entire sense of self. Suddenly, he's not just adequate, he's chosen, he's not just tolerated, he's craved. This validation goes so deep because men receive so little of it elsewhere. Society doesn't tell men they're desirable. Culture doesn't affirm masculine worth the way it does feminine beauty. Men don't get complimented, appreciated, or made to feel wanted in daily life. So when you express authentic desire for him, you're filling a need he didn't even know he could articulate. This is why your genuine enthusiasm during intimacy matters so much more than any technique. Your real desire for him validates his masculine identity in ways nothing else can. Intimacy triggers men's deepest questions about masculine adequacy. In those vulnerable moments, he's wondering, am I man enough, strong enough, capable of protecting and providing for her, worthy of her trust and desire? These questions live beneath the surface of his consciousness, but they drive enormous amounts of his behavior and emotional experience. When intimate connection goes well, when you respond with genuine pleasure and desire, when you choose him repeatedly, these experiences answer his core questions with yes. Yes, you're enough. Yes, you're worthy. Yes, you're the man she wants. This creates deep security that affects everything about how he shows up in the relationship. But when he experiences rejection, even small rejections like you being too tired, not seeming enthusiastic, or appearing distracted, it triggers those core questions in reverse. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe she doesn't actually want me. This is why men sometimes have disproportionate reactions to seemingly minor, intimate rejections. It's not really about that one night you were too tired. It's about the way that rejection confirms his deepest fear about his own adequacy. Understanding this doesn't mean you're responsible for managing his insecurity, but it does explain behaviors that otherwise seem confusing or frustrating. His sensitivity to rejection, his need for reassurance, his focus on your pleasure, These often stem from those core masculine worth questions that intimacy brings to the surface. There's a profound difference between performance driven intimacy and presence driven intimacy, and men feel this difference intensely. When he's in performance mode, he's anxious, disconnected, focused on outcomes rather than experience. He's trying to do everything right, last the right amount of time, make you respond in certain ways. He's in his head, analyzing and strategizing, completely disconnected from his body and emotions. This creates hollow experiences that leave both of you feeling unsatisfied even when everything technically works. But when he feels safe enough to shift from performance to presence, everything changes. He's no longer trying to accomplish something. He's experiencing something. He's in his body, feeling sensations, connecting emotionally, responding authentically to the moment. This presence creates the fusion experiences, the profound connection, the intimacy you both actually want. What allows this shift? Safety, acceptance, your own presence meeting his. When you're not evaluating his performance, he can stop performing. When you're genuinely present rather than thinking about other things, he can be present too. When you express authentic desire rather than dutiful participation, he can relax into genuine connection. This is why the most transformative thing you can do for your intimate relationship isn't learning new techniques. It's cultivating the safety and presence that allows both of you to stop performing and start connecting. Men experience a profound paradox around control during intimacy. They simultaneously need to maintain control and desperately long to surrender it. Understanding this paradox explains so much confusing behavior. Your partner lives in a world that demands constant control. He's supposed to control his emotions, control situations, control outcomes. He's the problem solver, the protector, the one who handles things. This constant responsibility is exhausting in ways women often don't realize. Then intimacy offers potential for something different, a space where he could let go, surrender control, simply receive and feel without having to manage everything. But surrendering control terrifies him because vulnerability feels dangerous. What if he loses control and you judge him? What if he shows need and you see him as weak? What if he surrenders and you can't hold the space safely? So he maintains control even in intimate moments, which prevents the very release and connection he's craving. Watch for this pattern. He always initiates, always directs, always maintains the lead during intimacy. This isn't necessarily dominance or control in the negative sense. Often it's self-protection. If he's controlling the experience, he doesn't have to risk the vulnerability of surrender. But the deepest intimacy happens when he feels safe enough to let go, to receive rather than always give, to be vulnerable rather than always strong, to surrender rather than always control. Creating space for his surrender is one of the most precious gifts you can offer. Men have a profound but rarely acknowledged need to be emotionally held during intimacy, not physically held, emotionally held, to be witnessed in their vulnerability, cared for in their need, seen in their humanity without judgment or expectation. This need connects to childhood experiences most men had where emotional nurturing was limited or absent. Boys learn early that emotional needs are shameful, that vulnerability is weakness, that needing comfort or reassurance makes them less masculine. So they grow into men who've never experienced being emotionally held as adults. Then intimacy creates moments where that old need surfaces, the need to be cared for, nurtured, seen not for what they provide but for who they are. When you create space for him to be emotionally held during intimate moments, you're offering something he's been missing his entire life. This doesn't mean mothering him or treating him like a child. It means witnessing his vulnerability with compassion, holding space for his emotions without trying to fix or change them, offering care that asks nothing in return. Most men have never experienced this kind of emotional holding from a partner. When they finally do, it creates profound healing and bonding. The challenge is that men don't know how to ask for this because they don't have language for the need. So you have to learn to sense it, to notice when he needs to be held emotionally rather than physically, when he needs your care rather than your desire, when he needs to receive rather than give. Men test safety before they surrender. This is crucial to understand. He won't immediately let go into vulnerability just because you want him to. He'll test whether the space is actually safe through small risks first. He might share a minor insecurity and watch how you respond. He might let you see a moment of uncertainty and notice whether you judge him. He might reveal a small need and check whether you make him feel weak for having it. If you respond to these tests with judgment, criticism, or anxiety, he learns the space isn't safe. He'll maintain his walls and keep performing strength. But if you respond with acceptance, calm presence, and genuine care, he learns he can risk more vulnerability next time. This is why building deep, intimate trust takes time. You're not just having physical experiences together, you're slowly teaching him through consistent responses that he can safely let his guard down with you. The tests will continue even in long-term relationships because men's fear of vulnerability is that deep. Every time he risks emotional exposure and you meet it with acceptance, you're building the foundation for deeper surrender. Every time you respond with criticism or make his vulnerability about your needs, you're confirming his fear that emotional exposure isn't safe. Understanding this pattern helps you recognize the tests for what they are and respond in ways that build rather than destroy trust. Men experience intimacy as access to transcendent states they can't reach any other way. In profound, intimate moments, something happens that goes beyond normal waking consciousness. The boundaries of his individual self start to dissolve. He experiences timelessness, ego death, spiritual connection that has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with consciousness itself. These aren't mystical experiences available only to special people. They're natural human capacities that physical intimacy can unlock, but only when conditions are right, when he feels completely safe, when you're both fully present, when genuine love and acceptance flow between you, the physical intensity can become doorway to altered consciousness. He's not thinking during these moments, he's not analyzing or performing, he's experiencing unity consciousness, where the separation between you dissolves and he feels merged with you, with the moment, with existence itself. These experiences are profoundly important to men's well-being because they offer relief from the constant pressure of individual identity. For moments, he doesn't have to be a man, a provider, a problem solver. He just is completely present in timeless connection. This is the spiritual dimension of intimacy that nobody talks about, but many people have experienced. It's why profound physical connection can feel sacred. It's accessing states of consciousness that heal, transform, and remind us we're more than our individual selves. During peak intimate experiences, men sometimes undergo ego death, the temporary dissolution of their usual identity structures. This sounds dramatic, but it's actually a natural phenomenon that happens when conditions align. His normal sense of self, the constant mental chatter, the roles he plays, the identity he maintains, all of this can temporarily dissolve during profound intimacy. What's left is pure awareness, pure sensation, pure connection without the filter of individual ego. This experience is simultaneously terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because losing sense of individual self triggers primal survival fears. Liberating because the constant burden of maintaining identity finally releases. Men who experience ego death during intimacy often can't articulate what happened. They just know something profound occurred, something that changed how they see themselves, you, and the relationship. What facilitates these experiences? Complete safety, total presence, authentic love. When he trusts you absolutely, when he's fully in his body rather than his mind, when love flows without conditions, these create possibility for consciousness to shift into transcendent states. You can't force or manufacture these experiences, but you can create conditions that make them possible. Deep trust, genuine presence, unconditional acceptance. And when they happen, they transform relationships because both people have touched something beyond ordinary experience together. Men struggle to integrate transcendent, intimate experiences into their everyday identity. This integration challenge explains confusing post-intimacy behavior patterns. Think about what happens. During profound intimacy, he experiences ego dissolution, emotional openness, vulnerability, transcendent connection. Then the experience ends, and he has to return to being regular him, the guy who goes to work, handles responsibilities, maintains masculine identity in the world. The gap between who he was during that peak experience and who he has to be in daily life creates dissonance he doesn't know how to handle. So sometimes he withdraws, he gets quiet or emotionally distant. He might seem like a different person than who showed up during intimacy. Women often interpret this as him being fake during intimacy or not really caring, but usually it's the opposite. The experience was so real, so profound, so vulnerable that he doesn't know how to carry it into normal life without feeling completely exposed. He needs time and space to integrate what happened, to make sense of the vulnerability he showed, the emotions he felt, the boundaries he let dissolve. This is normal and healthy, not a problem to fix. What helps integration? Your patience, your non-judgment about his process, your willingness to give him space without making it mean he doesn't care. Over time, as he experiences that you don't weaponize his vulnerability or make his emotional openness a problem, he learns to integrate these experiences more easily. The gap between intimate self and everyday self gradually closes, but this takes time and consistent safety. You can create emotional safety that allows your partner's vulnerability through specific, consistent practices. First, practice absolute non-judgment about what he shares or reveals during intimate moments. If he expresses a fantasy, shares an insecurity, or reveals something vulnerable, your response in that moment determines whether he'll risk vulnerability again. Curiosity and acceptance build safety, judgment and criticism destroy it. Second, maintain confidentiality about his vulnerable moments. Never share intimate details with friends. Use his vulnerabilities against him in arguments, or make jokes about his insecurities. Men need to know that what happens in intimate space stays in intimate space. Third, separate intimacy from criticism. Don't critique his performance, compare him to past partners, or offer improvement suggestions during or immediately after intimate moments. Create clear separation between intimate connection and relationship problem solving. Fourth, celebrate rather than analyze. When profound connection happens, resist the urge to immediately discuss it, figure out what made it work, or create pressure to replicate it. Just appreciate the experience without making it complicated. These practices build trust slowly but powerfully. Each time you respond to his vulnerability with acceptance, you're teaching him that emotional safety with you is real. Each time you maintain confidentiality, you're proving you're trustworthy with his tender places. Each time you celebrate connection without analyzing it to death, you're creating space for more of it to unfold naturally. You can learn to read your partner's emotional signals during intimacy with practice and attention. Start by noticing his breathing patterns. Shallow, rapid breathing often indicates anxiety or performance pressure. Deep, slow breathing suggests he's present and relaxed. Watch for tension in his body, clenched jaw, rigid muscles, held breath, all signal stress rather than pleasure. Notice his eye contact patterns. If he consistently avoids your gaze, he might be in performance mode rather than connection mode. If he seeks your eyes during vulnerable moments, he's checking for acceptance and safety. Pay attention to his verbal cues. Silence doesn't always mean absence of emotion. Sometimes it indicates he's feeling too much to speak, but notice the quality of silence. Peaceful quiet feels different than anxious quiet. Listen for subtle sounds of genuine pleasure versus performed responses. Learn to distinguish between when he's in his head versus in his body. When he's present, his movements flow naturally, his responses are spontaneous, his attention is completely with you. When he's anxious, his movements become mechanical, his responses calculated, his attention scattered. The goal isn't to constantly analyze him during intimacy, it's to develop intuitive sense of his emotional state so you can respond appropriately. offering reassurance when he's anxious, creating space when he needs to surrender, matching his presence when he's fully there. I'm inviting you to approach intimacy as opportunity for profound mutual vulnerability and connection rather than performance or obligation. Everything you've learned today about his inner experience, the performance pressure, the acceptance hunger, the need for emotional holding, the longing for transcendent connection, all of this gives you map to territory most couples never explore. You now understand that his silence doesn't mean absence of feeling. His guardedness doesn't mean he doesn't care. His focus on your pleasure isn't about ego. It's about his deep need to be worthy of your desire. You understand that intimacy is where he accesses emotional connection unavailable anywhere else in his life. This knowledge is power, but not power over him, power to create the depth of connection you've been seeking. Use this understanding with compassion. Be patient with his process. Celebrate small moments of deepening rather than demanding immediate transformation. Remember that building the kind of safety that allows profound vulnerability takes time. Every intimate encounter is opportunity to practice presence, acceptance, and genuine care. Not performance, not trying to do it right, just bringing your whole self to meet his whole self in whatever way unfolds naturally. You now understand your partner's inner world during intimacy in ways most women never will. You see the vulnerability beneath his silence, the hunger beneath his desire, the spiritual seeking beneath the physical act. This understanding transforms everything because you can finally meet him where he actually is rather than where you assumed he was. Take this knowledge into your next intimate moment. Notice his emotional state without trying to fix or change it. Offer acceptance without conditions. Bring genuine presence instead of performance. Express authentic desire instead of dutiful participation. Watch what shifts when you approach intimacy as mutual vulnerability rather than something you do for him or he does for you. You have capacity to create profound connection that heals, transforms, and deepens your relationship beyond what you currently imagine possible, not through technique or strategy, but through understanding and presence. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Trust that small, consistent moments of genuine connection build toward intimacy that satisfies both of you at the deepest levels. I want to hear what landed for you today. Which of these 5 emotional layers surprised you most? Was it learning about his performance anxiety, his need to surrender control, the transcendent experiences he's seeking? Share in the comments what shifted your understanding because your insight might be exactly what another woman needs to hear. We're building community of women who understand that intimacy is so much more than physical acts. It's doorway to profound connection, healing, and transformation for both partners. If this resonated with you, subscribe for weekly content, exploring relationship psychology, intimate connection, and creating deeply satisfying partnerships. I create each video with care and depth because you deserve content that honors both your intelligence and your desire for real connection. Thank you for being here, for your openness to understanding your partner more deeply, and for your commitment to creating relationship that truly satisfies you both.